Before we start the show, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Their support keeps this show free for you. Hey there, Peace and Parenting family. If you love the podcast but wish to enjoy it without interruptions, your wish has come true. Introducing the ad-free version of the Peace and Parenting podcast, available exclusively on Apple Podcast. As a subscriber, you'll get all the heartfelt advice, parenting stories, and actionable tips you love without any ads. For less than the cost of a coffee each month, you will enjoy uninterrupted listening while also supporting our work to help you build stronger connections with your kids. Try it out for free. Simply find Peace and Parenting on Apple Podcasts, click Try Free, and you'll gain immediate access to our ad-free episodes. There's no commitment and you can cancel anytime. So if you're ready for a more peaceful, uninterrupted listening experience, subscribe now. Let's keep focusing on connection without the distractions. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm Michelle, and I'm so glad you're here. Just a big shout out to all the people who have bought the book Unpunished. I think we've sold over 5,000 copies. And so I am so grateful for the people who have purchased Unpunished. If you haven't, you can get it on Audible. You can get it at unpunishedbook.com, or you can get it on Amazon, and you can get it on ebook. So if you are interested at all in my story and also some ideas around connected parenting, please purchase that book. It's an incredible little quick read. All right. Today on the podcast, I'd like to talk about some things that you can say to your children in order to help promote self-esteem. And I know that we all talk about self-esteem, and I want to talk about some things also that you can do, not just say, but we all talk about self-esteem, and we all want our children to have, really healthy self-esteem and feel really secure in who they are. And I think part of that is helping them believe that what they say is important, and that what they feel is important, and that their existence is important, and that they feel seen and heard and understood. And I think that's the overarching idea, is that we want them to feel seen and heard and understood. And if we think about it from our own childhood, isn't that what we all wanted? Didn't we all want to feel seen, heard, and understood? Even if we were told no, even if we had, strict parents who had boundaries and deep guidelines and were, more on the strict side of things, we just wanted to know that we were important, that what we said was still important, and that what we said was heard by somebody. Yeah, I hear you. I know you really want to go to that party, but you can't do it. And just to have somebody acknowledge us, right? To acknowledge our feelings, to acknowledge our existence, to acknowledge our thoughts. And so keep that as an overarching idea. So one thing I like to say to my kids is, you have such a loving, sweet, kind soul. And I think that is, I don't think anyone has ever told me that as a child. And imagine what that would feel like if somebody said, you are such a loving soul. And what if they said that to you in your hardest moments? I know you're having a hard time, but you're such a loving soul. That hits hard for me. The other thing I think is a great thing to say is, you're becoming an incredibly kind person. And I like to say this not in relation to a behavior. I don't want to say it when the child has just done something good. I like to just say it out of the blue. Wow, you really are becoming such an incredibly kind person. I'm honored to know you. That's a deep thing to say to a child. My daughter's going through something right now. Pia, she's having an issue with an adult in her life. And she's thinking about it in a very kind and thoughtful way about how she wants to talk to them and what she wants to say. And she's really worried about someone seeing her as disrespectful. And she really wants to say the right thing. We've been talking about it a lot. Well, if I say that, Mom, do you think it can be somebody would think that it was unkind? She's very cognizant of her words and how they land with someone, especially adults. And she never wants to come off as disrespectful. And that doesn't come from me like telling her to be like that. That just comes from her own internal ideas and thoughts around it, which I thought was so interesting. And I can see her really being a kind and thoughtful person. Another thing I like to say is, I can see how your heart is full of love. I like to say this too with my kids love our pet so much. Like, they love our cat so much that I feel this well of love come up for them when the cat is around. Like, I've never seen, so much deep love. And I say that to them, like, you're so, and they get protective of the pet, right? Especially Esme, she gets really protective of the pet. Like, did you let him in? You left him outside all day. I'm like, he's a cat, but the door is open. He's okay. Well, you didn't call him to come in. And I'm like, you're so full of love for this cat. You love him so much. I can see all the love you have for this beautiful cat. And you have such a loving heart. And I think, I didn't know this before, but I feel like cats or pets probably really give kids a chance to be empathic. And I love that. I love it so much. Another thing I like to say is, you seem to find all the answers inside of you, and those help you make good decisions. I really love to say this to kids, or a version of it. Like, I know you have all the answers. I know you're going to make the right decision. You have got this. I know you have everything inside of you to do the right thing, or the right thing for you. And really empowering our children to think for themselves, to problem solve for themselves, and to know that we believe in them, to know that we see them, to know that we understand that they can get to their own answers. And I think that's also what gets misconstrued in common thoughts around gentle or connective or conscious or peaceful parenting, is that I don't think people really realize how much we rely on the child taking care of their own things, their own autonomy and around their, hygiene, their own, ideas around problem solving with their friends, or their own ideas around problem solving. Like Pia, for instance, having this conflict with this adult that she wants to talk to. She really wants to talk to them. And I'm not telling her what to say. I'm not telling her what to do, but she is really bouncing things off of me. And I'm like, you're getting there, Pia. Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep hashing it out. She keeps telling me what she's going to say. And I'm like, yes, how do you think that will land? What do you think they will think and say? What else are you going to say? What points do you want to come up with? And really having her dive into herself and find her own answers, and not me just saying, well, you should say this to the adult. Well, make sure you don't do that. Well, make sure you say these things, because that's not helping her learn how to come up with her own ideas around conflict and conflict resolution. And she's really getting there. And I'm so happy that I can be the sounding board for her without trying to fix it or tell her what to do, but really saying, I know you have the answers inside of you. I know you will get there. I can see you getting there right now. I can see it all happening. This is such a good process, Pia. You're getting there. And she is. And she feels confident enough at 16 to be able to talk to an adult in a very calm, productive manner. And I'm so proud. And I could have never done that. I could have never gone to a teacher or a coach or whatever. She's going to be able to do this. And it's self-esteem, right? She has enough self-esteem because she's felt seen and heard and understood, not in a where you'll get online spoiled way or in an entitled way. She's not entitled at all. She's very methodical, and she really, really wants to be perceived the right way. And she's very concerned about that. And so she's very careful about what she's going to say and how she's going to say it, which I think is very admirable at 16 years old.
We're hitting pause for a moment to thank our sponsors. These brands make sure you can listen to this podcast for free. Are you sick of the sibling fighting? Are you tired of asking your child to do the same thing over and over and over again, only to end up using threats and bribes to try to get them to cooperate? Well, it doesn't have to be like that. You can learn the ideas of connection through our Connected Parent Mastermind group coaching program. We meet 3 days a week. Myself and my 2 coaches hold meetings. We also give you access to all of my online materials, meaning 10 modules of instruction, PDFs, podcasts, and my book. You get to join our school community and interact with coaches and myself and so many parents who are doing this work just alongside you. So if you're feeling stuck, or if you want to accelerate your connected parenting practice even further, join the Connected Parent Mastermind. Click the link in the show notes for more information. Hey there, Peace and Parenting family. If you love the podcast but wish to enjoy it without interruptions, your wish has come true. Introducing the ad-free version of the Peace and Parenting podcast, available exclusively on Apple Podcast. As a subscriber, you'll get all the heartfelt advice, parenting stories, and actionable tips you love without any ads. For less than the cost of a coffee each month, you will enjoy uninterrupted listening while also supporting our work to help you build stronger connections with your kids. Try it out for free. Simply find Peace and Parenting on Apple Podcasts, click Try Free, and you'll gain immediate access to our ad-free episodes. There's no commitment and you can cancel anytime. So if you're ready for a more peaceful, uninterrupted listening experience, subscribe now. Let's keep focusing on connection without the distractions. Okay, back to the episode.
Number 5, the 5th thing that I think is important is I trust you. I know you're always doing your best. I trust you, even when they mess up, even when they come home late and you're like, you know what? I know you came home late. I know there was a reason. I trust you. I trust that you were keeping yourself safe, or I trust that you were doing the right thing. And even if you aren't, we will get through it. But I trust you. And I trust you even when you're doing the wrong thing, because I trust that this is a process. And I trust that even if you make a mistake, you're going to learn from that mistake and you're going to come back and have a renewed idea about how you would handle it next time, just like us adults. And I think that's a big thing in parenting too, is like, we don't trust ourselves in parenting. We don't trust our thoughts. We don't trust our decisions maybe sometimes. I had a parent tell me she has decision fatigue because she's like constantly worried about, what decision do I make? Is it right? Am I screwing them up? What am I doing? Because nobody trusted us in our childhood. They didn't say, you know what? I trust you. I trust your instincts. I trust what you think. I trust your gut because you've got this. And that builds self-esteem. And so then we go into parenting with no self-esteem, not trusting ourselves, not trusting our decisions, and not trusting our gut. And this can also be, trailed back to punishments or consequences or whatever, that we weren't allowed to trust ourselves. We weren't allowed to trust our inner, thought process and our ideas, because the guardrails were put into place using punishments and consequences. And so we use the punishments and consequences to be our guardrails instead of using our internal, morality. And so sometimes we don't know where our guardrails are because we have had so many artificial guardrails. And those came in the form of punishments and consequences, and nobody trusted us. I don't trust you to make the right decision, so I need to give you a punishment. I don't trust that you're going to come home on time, so I need to give you a consequence. I don't trust that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, so there's going to be a punitive measure. And I think that's what punishments really say, and consequences really say. I don't trust you. But we want them to trust themselves. So we have to allow them to make the mistakes without the consequences, so that they can go to their internal consequence, so that they can come up with their own morality, so that they can start to trust themselves. Thus, the self-esteem. It all comes from us. If we have this deep thought that our kids doing their best, that they will come up with the right decisions, and that what they are thinking and feeling and understanding in their own body and their own mind is real and okay and valid, and they know that from us, then they're going to have more self-esteem. It isn't about telling them good job or you're amazing or you're incredible or you're beautiful or you're all these things that we hear people say to kids. It really is telling them that they've got this, that they're a loving person, that we believe that they are becoming this incredibly kind human, that, that they have the answers inside of them, and that we trust that they're always doing their best, that we don't think the worst of them. We think the best of them. And that gives us another link and another nod to unconditional love. If you love your child unconditionally, if you can say these things to them and truly believe them, if you can see and hear and understand them and give them the empathy and understanding that they need. So that's the other piece. Like, when they have a hard time or they're having a hard feeling, can you give them that empathy? And will that help them build resilience, knowing, I can have these hard feelings. I can also have the empathy, and that can help me do better. And will that help me trust myself and trust my feelings and trust the process? And I think that's all it is. But society doesn't do us any favors, ladies and gentlemen. Society tells us, don't trust those kids. They can't possibly do anything right. We'll have to punish them into it. We'll have to consequence them into it. We'll have to reward them into it because they are unruly heathens. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. They're not. They're incredibly intuitive beings that need us to believe the best in them. And then they'll be able to do their best, not without falter. They will always make mistakes. So will we. That's the way it is. That's okay. All right. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you next time.